The starship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a silver leaf falling from a great tree. Inside, Ambassador pressed his feathered body against the observation window and watched the blue planet grow larger. His 3 hearts beat in a nervous rhythm. This was humanity's world. This was the planet the Galactic Council had marked as a Category 7 death world. Everything on this planet wanted to kill everything else. The oceans were filled with monsters. The land crawled with venomous creatures. Even the plants could kill. Yet somehow, impossibly, intelligent life had evolved here. Turned to look at his delegation. 7 species from 7 worlds, all united under the collective. Delegate sat in the corner, her small rodent-like body trembling slightly. Her large eyes never stopped moving, always watching for danger. Delegate stood near the door, his massive bovine frame taking up most of the space. Despite his size, was the gentlest being had ever known. He would not harm a flower. None of them would. They were prey species, all of them. Their ancestors had survived by running, by hiding, by being afraid. The collective had sent them because they believed humans were the same. Early scans had shown no natural weapons on human bodies. No claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor. The Council had decided that humans must be grazers like people. Perhaps they hid from predators in caves. Perhaps they climbed trees to escape danger. They would be timid. They would be gentle. They would be easy to approach. The ship landed at Orbital Station Harmony, humanity's first space station designed for alien visitors. Had studied the images. It was beautiful in a strange way. Curved metal and glass, floating above the clouds like a dream. The humans had built it in just 3 years. That fact alone had impressed the Council. The delegation walked down the ramp and into the reception hall. The room was large and bright, filled with plants and soft music. Appreciated the effort. Humans had clearly studied what made prey species comfortable. Good. This suggested they understood diplomacy. Then Lieutenant Park stepped forward to greet them. She was small by the standards of many species. Her dark hair was pulled back from her face in a neat style. Her uniform was simple and clean. She smiled at them, and the smile seemed warm and welcoming. She carried no weapons that could see. Her hands were empty and open. She began to speak. The translator implant in his ear converted her words perfectly. She welcomed them to Earth. She expressed hope for friendship between their peoples. She invited them to a dinner that evening where they would share food and conversation. Her words were exactly what the diplomatic protocols suggested they should be. But something was wrong. Felt it before he understood it. A cold feeling crept up his spine. His feathers began to rise without his permission. His heart beat faster. Beside him made a small sound of distress. Took a step backward, his hooves clicking on the metal floor. Every prey instinct in his body was screaming at him. Danger, danger, danger. But why? The human was smiling. Her voice was soft. She had made no threatening moves, forced himself to remain calm. He was an ambassador. He had trained for decades. He would not embarrass his people by running from a welcoming ceremony. Lieutenant Park continued speaking. She gestured toward the windows, showing them the view of Earth below. Her eyes moved from the data pad in her hand to the delegation. That was when Grab's arm. Her eyes whispered through their private communication channel. Ambassador, look at her eyes. Looked. At first, he did not understand what meant. The human's eyes were brown and unremarkable. They were positioned on the front of her face, which was slightly unusual but not alarming. Then Lieutenant Park looked directly at him. He saw it. When her gaze shifted from the data pad to him, something changed. The dark circles in the center of her eyes grew larger. They expanded like pools of shadow swallowing light. It was subtle. It happened in less than a heartbeat. But to his prey-evolved brain, it was like watching a predator lock onto its target. His body reacted before his mind could stop it. He took 3 rapid steps backward, his wings half opened, ready for flight. His hearts were pounding so hard he thought they might burst. Around him, the other delegates were having similar reactions, had hidden behind. Himself was shaking, his massive body trembling like a leaf in a storm. The others pressed against the walls, trying to make themselves small. Lieutenant Park stopped speaking. Her smile faded into confusion. She looked at her fellow humans, then back at the terrified aliens. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, concerned. But her eyes were still watching them, still tracking their movements, still focusing on them with that terrible, unconscious precision. Forced himself to speak. "We require a moment," he managed to say. "Please, we need to return to our quarters." The human nodded. She looked worried, perhaps even hurt. She gave them directions to their rooms and offered to help if they needed anything. Barely heard her. He was already moving, leading his delegation away from the reception hall as fast as dignity would allow. They did not run. Running would trigger chase instincts in a predator. They walked. They walked quickly, and they did not look back. Only when they were safely behind the sealed door of their quarters did allow himself to breathe. "What was that?" asked, his voice shaking. "What did we just see?" Leaned against the wall. His feathers were still standing on end. His body was still ready to flee. "I do not know," he admitted, "but I intend to find out." He looked at his trembling delegation and made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Cancel the dinner," he ordered. "We are not leaving this room until we understand exactly what humans are." The delegation spent the entire night studying humans. Had ordered a complete download of Earth's public biological archives. The information was freely available. Humans seemed to have no secrets about their own nature. They wrote books about themselves. They made documentaries. They studied their own bodies with the same curiosity they applied to everything else. What the delegation found in those archives kept them awake until morning. Was the first to scream. It was a small scream, quickly silenced, but it brought everyone rushing to her research station. She was staring at her screen with her large eyes wider than had ever seen them. Her small paws covered her mouth. "What is it?" asked. Could not speak. She simply pointed at the screen. The image showed a group of ancient humans. They were running across a dry grassland under a hot sun. They wore almost no clothing. They carried simple weapons made of sticks and stones. They were chasing something. The something was a large animal with 4 legs. It was running faster than the humans, much faster. It would escape easily. But the humans did not stop chasing. The video continued. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. The animal kept running. The humans kept following. They did not run fast. They ran slowly and steadily. They sweated. They drank water from containers they carried. They talked to each other. Sometimes they laughed. The animal ran and ran. It could not sweat like the humans could. It began to overheat. Its legs began to fail. It stumbled. It fell. The humans caught up to it. Closed the video before the end. No one needed to see what happened next. "Persistence predators," whispered. He had found the term in the archives. "They are called persistence predators. They do not need to be fast. They do not need claws or fangs. They simply follow their prey until the prey cannot run anymore." "For how long?" one of the delegates asked. Checked his notes. His voice shook as he answered. "Hours, sometimes days. They track their prey by scent and by memory. They never stop. They never give up. They follow and follow until the prey collapses from exhaustion, and then they walk up to it and kill it." The room fell silent. Thought about Lieutenant Park and her kind smile. He thought about how she had watched them with those forward-facing eyes. He thought about how patient she had seemed, how calm, how relaxed. Of course she had been relaxed. She was a predator. Predators did not need to be nervous. Predators had nothing to fear. "There is more," said quietly. She had continued her research despite her terror. Their eyes are designed for hunting." She pulled up a diagram of a human eye. It looked simple enough. A sphere filled with fluid. a lens to focus light, a dark circle that could grow larger or smaller. The pupil explained. The dark part in the center, it dilates when they focus on something interesting. It opens wider to let in more light, to see more detail, to track movement more precisely. Interesting, repeated. What counts as interesting to a human? His voice was barely a whisper. Prey. Closed his eyes. Now he understood why his body had reacted so strongly. When Lieutenant Park had looked at them, her pupils had dilated. Her brain had marked them as targets. It was unconscious. She probably did not even know she was doing it. But millions of years of evolution had taught ancestors exactly what that look meant. A predator had spotted them. A predator was watching them. A predator was deciding whether to chase. "We need to leave," one of the delegates said. "We need to leave this system immediately." "We cannot," replied. "The treaty negotiations are too important. If we flee, the Council will want to know why. They will send another delegation. More of our people will come here without knowing what humans truly are." "Then what do we do?" Thought carefully. "We send a message to the Council. We tell them everything we have learned. And we request a xenobiology expert to help us understand these creatures." He began composing the message. His talons trembled as he typed. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Lieutenant Park sat in Captain's office. Her face showed confusion and concern. "I do not understand what went wrong," she said. "I followed every protocol. I smiled. I used open body language. I offered traditional gifts, but they looked at me like I was a monster." Captain leaned back in his chair. He was an older man with gray in his hair and kindness in his eyes. He had been working in diplomatic relations for 20 years. He had never seen an alien delegation flee from a welcome ceremony before. "Tell me exactly what happened," he said. Describe the meeting in detail. The delegates had seemed nervous from the beginning. When she began speaking, they had grown more agitated. By the end, they were barely able to stand still. They had retreated to their quarters and refused all further contact. "They canceled the dinner," added. "They said they needed time to rest, but I do not think they are resting. I think they are hiding." "From what?" "From us, sir, from me," shook her head. "I think I scared them somehow, but I do not know how." Captain considered this. "Get specialist hand from the department. She has studied non-human behavior patterns. If anyone can figure out what went wrong, she can." Stood and saluted. "Yes, sir." As she left the office, she thought about the look on Ambassador's face when he had backed away from her. Pure terror, absolute fear, the kind of fear that bypasses thought and goes straight to instinct. She had seen that look before. Once, during a training exercise, she had startled a deer in the forest. The deer had looked at her with exactly that expression before it fled. But she was not a threat. She was just a person, She walked down the corridor toward the department, wondering what the aliens saw when they looked at her. She did not yet understand that they saw exactly what she was. They saw a predator. Specialist Han watched the recording of the first contact meeting for the 17th time. She sat alone in her small office, surrounded by books about alien psychology and behavior. Empty coffee cups covered her desk. She had not slept in 36 hours. But now she understood. "Oh no," she said quietly to herself. "Oh, this is very bad." She leaned back in her chair and pressed her hands against her face. The answer was so obvious, so simple, and so terrible. Humans were predators, real predators, not the gentle herbivores that the galaxy had hoped for. Every part of human biology screamed this truth. The forward-facing eyes for tracking prey, the flat teeth for tearing meat, the body designed for running long distances, the brain wired for patience and planning. And the aliens had noticed. Had studied prey species for years. She knew their instincts. She knew the ancient programming that ran in their brains. When a prey animal saw a predator, certain things happened automatically. The heart beat faster. The muscles tensed. The mind screamed one word over and over: run. The alien delegates had felt this when they looked at Lieutenant Park. They had felt it in their bones, in their blood, in their souls. Millions of years of evolution had taught their ancestors to recognize predators and flee. That programming was still active. It would always be active. And it had identified humans as a threat. Requested a meeting with the delegation. She expected them to refuse. Instead, they agreed almost immediately. They had questions of their own, it seemed. The meeting took place through a reinforced transparent wall. Sat on one side. The 7 delegates stood on the other, clustered together like frightened sheep. Their eyes watched her constantly, tracking her every movement. "I want to thank you for agreeing to speak with me," began. She kept her voice soft and calm. She looked down at her notes instead of directly at them. She had learned that prey species found direct eye contact threatening. "We have questions," Ambassador said. His voice was steady but could see his feathers trembling. "I understand, and I believe I know what your questions are." Took a deep breath. "You have discovered that humans are predators. You are afraid of us. You want to know if you are safe." Silence filled the room. The delegates exchanged glances. "You do not deny it," Delegate said finally. "You do not pretend to be something you are not." "I cannot deny biology," replied. "Humans evolved as hunters. Our ancestors survived by chasing and killing other animals. Our eyes are designed to track movement. Our bodies are designed for endurance. Our minds are designed for patience and planning." She paused. "When we look at something interesting, our pupils dilate. This is automatic. We cannot control it. And I know that to your eyes this looks like target acquisition." Delegate spoke next. His deep voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You understand why we are afraid, then. You know what we see when we look at you." "Yes, you see a predator focusing on prey," nodded slowly. "But I want to show you something you may not have discovered in your research." She pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them. A human child holding a dog, an old woman feeding birds in a park, a young man carrying a cat in his arms. "Humans are predators," continued. "But we are strange predators. We do not only hunt, we also protect." She changed the image. Now it showed ancient humans sitting around a fire. Among them were wolves, not wild wolves attacking. Wolves sitting peacefully beside humans, sharing food, sharing warmth. 40,000 years ago, humans met wolves. Wolves were predators too. By all logic, we should have competed. We should have fought. Instead, something strange happened. We adopted each other. The delegates watched with wide eyes. "Humans took wolf puppies into our families. We fed them. We protected them. We loved them," smiled gently. "The wolves became dogs. They are still with us today. We call them our best friends." "You adopted predators," whispered. "We adopted everyone," replied. "Wolves became dogs. Wild cats became house cats. We took in birds, rabbits, fish, horses. We adopted entire species, not to eat them, to care for them." She looked directly at the delegates now, forgetting to look away. "Humans have a strange instinct. When we see something small and helpless, our predator brain does not think about hunting. It thinks about protecting." Stepped closer to the barrier. His fear was still visible, but now something else appeared in his eyes: curiosity. "You protect prey species?" he asked. "We protect everything we love, and humans are very good at loving things." Stood and walked closer to the barrier. "Our predator instincts made us efficient hunters, but they also made us fierce protectors. When a human decides that something belongs to them, they will defend it with their life. And if something threatens what they protect." His expression changed. For just a moment, something hard appeared in her eyes, something sharp. "Then we hunt the threat, we chase it, we follow it, we never give up, we never stop. We pursue the threat until it is no longer a danger." The room went quiet again. "Your prey instincts are telling you that we are dangerous," said softly. "And they are right. Humans are very dangerous, but the question you should ask is not whether we are dangerous. The question is, who are we dangerous to? She reached out and placed her hand flat against the transparent barrier. Her pupils dilated slightly as she focused on the aliens before her. "We can be your worst nightmare," she said, "or we can be your greatest protector. The choice is not ours to make. It is yours." Ambassador looked at her hand pressed against the barrier. He looked at her eyes, watching him with that terrible predator focus. He felt his instincts screaming at him to run. But for the first time, he also felt something else. He felt hope. The negotiations resumed the next day. The atmosphere was still tense. The alien delegates still flinched when humans looked at them too long, but they stayed, they listened, they talked. Ambassador sat across the table from Captain. Between them lay the draft of a treaty that could change the future of both their peoples. It was slow work. Every word had to be carefully chosen. Every meaning had to be clear. On the third day of talks, everything changed. Was reading a section about trade regulations when the alarm began to sound. It was a harsh, screaming noise that made every delegate jump from their seats. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. Humans began running past the windows, shouting commands to each other. "What is happening?" demanded. His massive body was pressed against the wall, his eyes wild with fear. Captain was already on his feet pressing his communication device. His face had changed completely. The gentle diplomat was gone. In his place was something harder, something sharper. "Hull breach in Sector 7, he announced. His voice was calm but urgent. "An asteroid fragment hit the station. Emergency bulkheads are sealing." "Sector 7, whispered. "That is where our junior staff are staying." The color drained from his feathers. The delegation had brought 15 junior staff members, young researchers and assistants. They were supposed to be safe. They were supposed to be waiting for the negotiations to finish. "The bulkheads have sealed the damaged section," Captain continued. "Life support is failing. Oxygen is dropping." "Then open the bulkheads," shouted. "We cannot. The breach is too large. Opening the bulkheads would expose more of the station to vacuum." Captain turned to his officers. "Get me Lieutenant Park and Engineering Team 3, now." Watched as humans began to move. They did not walk. They ran. They sprinted down corridors with focused determination. Their eyes were sharp. Their movements were efficient. They looked exactly like predators chasing prey. But they were not chasing prey. They were chasing the problem. Lieutenant Park arrived at the sealed bulkhead in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. She was breathing hard from running, but her hands were steady. Behind her came 5 more humans carrying tools and equipment. Captain had ordered helmet cameras activated. The delegation watched the rescue attempt on a large screen in the conference room, could not look away. The image showed Lieutenant Park pressing her face against a small window in the sealed door. Through the window could see his people, 15 young beings, huddled together in a room that was slowly losing oxygen. Their eyes were huge with terror. Some of them were crying. "I see you," Lieutenant Park said. Her voice was clear and calm through the communication system. "I can see all of you. We are going to get you out. I need you to stay calm. Breathe slowly. We are coming for you." She turned away from the window and knelt beside the door mechanism. Her pupils dilated as she examined the damage. Target acquired. The target was the broken machinery. "The emergency seal is jammed," one of her team reported. "The impact warped the frame. Standard override is not working." "Then we do a non-standard override," Park replied. "Get me the plasma cutter. We go through the frame itself." Another human shook his head. "That will take too long. Oxygen in there will run out in 8 minutes." "Then we work fast." Watched Lieutenant Park pick up a tool that glowed with intense heat. She pressed it against the metal frame of the door. Sparks flew. The metal began to glow red. She did not flinch. She did not look away. Her eyes stayed fixed on her target with absolute focus. Sweat ran down her face. The heat must have been terrible, but she kept working. Behind her, other humans were attaching portable oxygen tanks to a small opening in the door. They pushed the nozzles through gaps in the warped metal and released bursts of fresh air into the trapped room. "Breathe," one of them called through the gap. "We are giving you more oxygen, just breathe and stay calm. We are almost there." 6 minutes passed. 7. The metal frame was nearly cut through. Lieutenant Park's hands were shaking now from effort and heat, but she did not stop. 30 seconds, she announced. "Everyone stand back from the door." She made the final cut. The door groaned. Metal screamed against metal. Then the door fell open. Lieutenant Park did not rush inside. She did not grab the aliens and drag them out. Instead, she stood at the threshold with her hand extended. Her palm faced upward, open, non-threatening. "You are safe now," she said softly. "Come out when you are ready, we have you." The junior delegates stumbled forward. Some of them collapsed. Humans caught them gently and carried them to safety. Medical teams appeared with oxygen masks and blankets. Every alien was accounted for. Every alien was alive. In the conference room, Ambassador realized he was crying. He had watched humans hunt. He had seen their predator focus lock onto a target. He had witnessed their persistence, their refusal to give up, their relentless determination. But the prey they hunted was not his people. The prey was danger itself. When the rescue was complete, Lieutenant Park looked directly into her helmet camera. Her face was covered in sweat and soot. Her hands were burned from the plasma cutter. She was exhausted. But she smiled. "Everyone is safe," she reported. "No casualties, returning to base." Stared at the screen long after it went dark. His feathers had stopped trembling. His heart had stopped racing. For the first time since arriving at this station, he was not afraid. The treaty was signed 3 weeks later. Ambassador stood in the same reception hall where he had first met humans. The same lights shone through the windows. The same soft music played in the background, but everything felt different now. Lieutenant Park stood beside Captain. Her hands were still bandaged from the burns she had received during the rescue. When had offered to delay the ceremony until she healed, she had smiled and shaken her head. "These wounds are nothing," she had said. "I would do it again in a heartbeat." Believed her. He had learned many things about humans in the past 3 weeks. He had learned that they never gave up. He had learned that they protected what they loved with fierce determination. He had learned that their predator instincts, which had terrified him so deeply, could be directed at anything they chose, including threats to their friends. The signing itself was simple. Pressed his talon to the document. Captain pressed his thumb beside it. The treaty was official. Humanity and the collective were now allies. But the ceremony was not the end. It was the beginning. That evening, sat in his quarters and composed his final report to the Galactic Council. He had thought about this message for days. He had written and deleted it 100 times. The words had to be perfect. The galaxy needed to understand what humanity truly was. He began to write. To the Galactic Council and all member species of the collective. This is the final report of Ambassador regarding first contact with the human species of Earth. I will be direct. The rumors are true. Humans are predators. They have forward-facing eyes designed to track movement. Their pupils dilate when they focus on targets. Their bodies are built for chasing prey across vast distances until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Every instinct in our prey-evolved brains correctly identifies them as dangerous. We were right to be afraid. But we were wrong about what they hunt. I have spent 3 weeks living among humans. I have watched them work. I have watched them play. I have watched them respond to crisis with calm determination and fierce resolve. And I have learned something important about their nature. Humans do not hunt the weak. They hunt problems. When a challenge appears, they focus on it with the same intensity their ancestors used to track prey. Their pupils dilate. Their hearts beat faster. Their minds calculate and plan. They pursue the problem with relentless patience, refusing to give up, refusing to surrender until the problem is solved or destroyed. I watched them save the lives of my people. They ran toward danger. They worked until their hands were burned. They would not stop until everyone was safe. And when they looked at my trapped staff members with those terrible predator eyes, they were not thinking about hunting. They were thinking about protecting. This is the truth about humans. They are predators, but they are predators who have learned to choose their prey. They can choose to hunt the helpless, yes. This is a possibility, but they can also choose to hunt those who threaten the helpless. They can turn their terrible focus against danger itself. Once a human decides that something belongs to them, they will protect it with their lives. They will track any threat. They will pursue any enemy. They will never stop, never tire, never give up until the threat is ended. I have seen what happens when a human looks at you as a target. It is terrifying beyond description. I have also seen what happens when a human looks at you as something to protect. It is the same look, the same focus, the same intensity. The only difference is who the hunt is for. We have a choice now. We can flee from humanity. We can hide. We can try to avoid their notice and hope they never turn their predator gaze upon us. Or we can stand beside them. We can become their friends. We can become their pack. I have seen how humans treat their pack. They adopted wolves and made them family. They took in cats and birds and 1,000 other species. They protect their pack with the same fierce intensity they once used to hunt. The galaxy is dangerous. There are species out there who would prey upon us. There are empires who see the collective as nothing more than food to be consumed. But now we have the option to stand with predators of our own. When a human looks at you and their pupils dilate, when you feel that ancient terror rising in your chest, ask yourself one question. Am I the target, or am I the thing being protected? The answer will determine whether you have gained the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy, or the most loyal friend. My recommendation is simple: full alliance, immediately, without hesitation. Let them look at us with those predator eyes. Let their pupils dilate when they see us. Let them focus on us with that terrible intensity. Because when they look at us that way, they are saying something important. They are saying, you are mine now, you are pack, and I will hunt down anything that tries to hurt you. This is my final report. This is my recommendation. Let the humans watch over us. Let them be our guardians. We have found protectors among the stars. Status: full alliance approved. Sent the message. Then he walked to the observation deck, where Lieutenant Park was watching the stars. She turned when he approached, her eyes focused on him, her pupils dilated slightly. Did not flinch. Beautiful night, Park said softly. Yes, agreed. He stood beside her and looked out at the endless darkness. It is. Somewhere deep in his brain, his prey instincts still whispered warnings, but now those warnings felt different. They did not say run. They said stay close to the predator. The predator will keep you safe. For the first time in his life, felt truly protected. And among the stars, a new alliance was born.